fantasy
for dummies.
Hold up. This is the part where we are going to tell you that there are spoilers, cursing, potentially triggering situations, and spiciness of all levels. Don't say you weren't warned. Alright, carry on. Welcome back to Season 1, Episode 2 of Fantasy for Dummies. This is Brianna, the younger sister.
This is Eileen, the fairy-loving, almost 40-year-old.
What are we talking about today?
Fourth wing.
Fourth wing. I love dragons. Yeah, I know. If that...
It's not that I don't love dragons. It's not that I don't love dragons.
Uh-huh.
I don't love this book.
But you love... Well, what other dragon books have you read that you liked?
I don't want to categorize an entire mythical being right now.
Based off of this one book.
Right.
Alright, you want to delve a little bit...
It's not that I don't like it.
If anything, you like the dragons most about this book.
I do. The dragons are the best part about the book. I read the book, voraciously. I couldn't put it down. I was addicted to it while simultaneously being annoyed by it.
That's a skill. Before we jump into that...
Sissy, what did you make us today? What's the cocktail of the day?
The cocktail of the day is an espresso martini. Featuring Tito's, which, by the way, I think we're supposed to say we're not sponsored by anything we talk about at the moment, but, we're always...
I
think we're always on the prowl for a sponsorship with a liquor company. So if anyone knows anyone, you send them our way.
I don't
think a single soul is worried about it. 100% correct. But when we...
thinks that this is sponsored by anyone.
But when we are selling out some small venue...
Yeah, when I'm at Radio City under the lights.
Wow, you really think highly of yourself. I was thinking the basement of the Comedy Cellar.
Got a dream thing.
Usually I'm the one that's...
I'll only zoom in via phone for this live recording anyway, so...
That's bullshit. That is bullshit. You want to know why there's no video to this podcast?
Because I don't fucking want one.
Want to know why you only see my shining face on social media?
Because I don't fucking want to do it.
Yeah, no duh. No shit.
Wow.
Aggressive, I know.
Aggressive language.
Sissy, what are you reading right now?
I've recently read 2 books.
Uh-huh.
On the same day.
Uh-huh.
One of them is really good. Butcher and Blackbird. I don't know who wrote it. I have to look it up. Put it in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, no
worries.
worries.
Like it. You would like it. It's not fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 2 serial killers that fall in love. It's a delightful, quick read. They're dextery. Stop laughing at me because I said serially. Butcher and Blackbird.
Yes.
Good. You should read it. I think you would like it. It's quick. It's witty. There's 3 of them, but they're not like a series. It's just background characters, I think, get the next book. So I didn't jump into the next one right away because I had to pay for it. And I'm trying to burn through everything on Kindle Unlimited first. But I paid $8 for it. Worth it.
Respectful.
I recommend. That was my morning book.
Okay.
My evening book, my late afternoon evening book is, I read Knights of Obedience. I saw it on Instagram a bunch of times. The problem with me is, if I see something and I'm curious, I have to know. It is...
And then the other thing about you is that once you start something, even if you hate it, you have to finish it.
That's true, but I didn't hate this book, to be fair. And if it's a book that's really long or just going to take too much of my brain power or actual time, and it's miserable, I'm not going to finish it. I almost didn't finish Fourth Wing, but this book was so quick, and you could read it in a couple hours, and I did like the characters in spite of the rampant sexual assault that happens throughout the whole book. It's just a trigger warning. Read them. I think if I recall correctly at the beginning, it's there's a list of trigger warnings, but you have to go to a website to see what they are. I don't think they can list them all, or maybe they don't want to put people off. There should have been a QR code.
There should have been.
I have no idea. It was check yourself, check your everything. If you just, I will read the second one because I'm invested as what happens to the characters, and it was a really quick read, and it was good in spite of how fucking weird it was. It was smutty. I have a problem with all these other books being labeled as smut.
That's fair.
ACOTAR
What defines smut?
Well, that's what I mean. ACOTAR, people are like, oh, it's just fairies fucking. It's really not. There's some sex scenes in books about fairies. The last one's pretty smutty. the author like discovered the word cock and could not stop using it for 800 pages. It was bizarre. It was really bizarre, and it didn't happen in the previous books. I think that if you really consider that smut, you'd have to consider any movie with like a sex scene in it porno.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. I think people are using more spicy.
Okay.
They like are referring to books with
I've heard the word spice a lot.
like they'll like describe something by spiciness.
Sure.
Like,
but that's the least important part. Like I don't know why anyone would care about that.
Yeah.
I have a full life of things.
Yeah. This would be the second time you've had to declare that on this podcast, and it's only episode 2.
I'm just telling you. But moral of the story is, if you're dedicating days of your life or hours of your life or whatever it is to read a book just to get to a sex scene, go on Pornhub and move on with your life.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We started today with a list of things we're not allowed to do, which is clanking glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Phones need to be on silent.
Right. Saying yeah a lot.
I say like a lot, apparently. But we're changing that all today.
I don't know if we are, but we're about to find out.
We're going to try. We're going to do our damnedest.
So that's what I read.
I am not reading anything currently. I'm just trying to finish this ACOTAR series so that way I can be any help.
So you are reading ACOTAR?
Yeah, I'm reading ACOTAR, but like it's not something that I necessarily would have chosen for myself. Doing it for the cast.
Bring you doing
Doing it for the pod. Doing about that.
Do you like the second ACOTAR better than the first ACOTAR?
It's definitely better.
Okay.
It's because there's so many other characters already.
Right.
That I don't have to think about Feyre.
The best characters in those books are the
Illyrians.
The friends.
Yes.
Yeah, the little friend group.
The core group are...
It's a found family, if you will.
Yes. Okay.
Are you listening to it or reading it?
Both. Because it's the only way I can get through them.
Are you doing the dramatic reading?
No.
Why?
Because I go with the cheapest option.
The dramatic reading costs more?
I don't actually.
No. I got bombarded with a lot of people telling me how to find the dramatic readings.
Eileen is now fully aware of
no
how
one else has
to
to tell me.
find
No one
the
else,
dramatic reading
no one
on
else has
Audible.
to tell me. But I do feel that Audible only found them on my Audible once people started telling me about them, because I looked for them and I couldn't find them. And then, because we were talking about ACOTAR, everyone started sending me ACOTAR, but what I was actually looking for was Throne of Glass. And then when I typed in Throne of Glass dramatic reading, it showed up once and then never to be seen again.
I don't know.
It has to be out there somewhere.
Probably.
I have one more free Audible credit. So maybe I'll do the dramatic reading.
I signed up.
I Mist and Fury. Yeah, I might do that. Just so it's fresh in my brain by the time you get there.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it.
We're gonna dive into.
We've got 5 pages of notes.
It's a fourth
almost
wing.
6 pages of notes. She's already shaking her head.
I'm not shaking
She's already
my head.
sweating.
I am sweating. It's hot in here. It is hot in here.
The
But
window's open.
We open our book at the War College.
Yes.
How do you say it? Basgiath.
Basgiath.
Are you sure?
Basgiath.
You were supposed to have verified all these things before we started.
You know what? I did verify them once. Okay.
We open at the War College that we don't know how to say.
I think it's Basgiath.
Basgiath. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're going with. Basgiath. I'm not going to say it again. I'm just going to call it the War College. And I find it irksome that it's a war college, not a military college. It's just a college for war.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave that there. And you have Violet, who's obviously our main character of this book, and she is eavesdropping, essentially, outside her mom's office. And her mom, who is the General Sorrengail, she's HBIC of this military, and she's fighting with Violet's sister, Amira. And Violet's sister's trying to tell her, like, Mom, what are you doing? Violet's going to die if we put her through this. And the mom kind of just says, she'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Like, we're doing it. We're Sorrengails. Everyone has to be a dragon rider, which initially kind of makes sense until you find out that her dad was a scribe, not a dragon rider. So it's a lie. And they're having this argument, and her sister's saying you're going to send her to her death.
Should we, at this moment, talk about the different areas of the War College? Or you have that later on?
Well, I was just going to say her dead, she's supposed to be a scribe like her dead dad, which is another option in the War College. You could be a scribe, which is exactly what it sounds like. You could be a dragon rider, which is what she's being forced to do, which is the most dangerous path you could take here.
Mm-hmm.
Very likely to die.
Yes.
And then the last one is infantry, which is essentially just like a regular army foot soldier.
Yeah.
And those are the 3 choices that you have.
Yeah.
The Dragon Riders are supposed to be only by you have to volunteer. They can't. But if you don't pick anything, they put you into one of the other 2. They won't force you. They're not supposed to be able to force you into dragon riding because it's so.
Yes, if you don't pick, you go into infantry. I believe.
Right.
Is the way it works.
Right. And the reason her sister is so concerned about Violet is that we find out right off the bat she's supposed to be this very tiny, fragile, frail, weak, injury-prone girl. And that is because her mother had a weird mystery illness when she was pregnant with her. That's the hypothesis here. And in spite of all logic, her mom is making her be a dragon rider, which makes even less sense when we find out that her brother, Brennan, who was a really good dragon rider.
He was a mender.
He was a mender, which is like a healer, if you will.
He ended up being a healer. He was like he was starting to like climb the ranks of the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he died.
He dies in battle.
Yeah.
So you've already lost one kid who was good at this, and you're forcing in number 3 who doesn't sound off the bat like she has a chance in how. And she pops in, and her mom's like, "Listen, you're gonna do this. I'm not gonna be allowed to talk to you you're not allowed to talk to anyone for the first year you're in this fucked up school. So I'll catch you in 365 days. Good luck." And her sister takes her and has like 15 minutes before this is supposed to start. And does the best that she can to set her up, give her tips, repack her bag for her, give her armor. She gives her boots that are going to help her with like a grippy bottom. Violet was basically in like ballet shoes about to like she
packed all those books. Like she packed like a ton of books. She's like, I can carry it. It was so many books. She like made her throw all the books out except for one. She was only allowed to keep one book on poisons.
Right.
Which comes in later.
She's very ill prepared. She's 0% prepared for what is incredibly dangerous. And
I think she said she's only had 6 months to prep. Her mom only told her 6 months before this day.
But I just feel like in 6 months you would have known to get boots with a grippy bottom.
You're not wrong. Also, like, if your mom is the general, why didn't your mom get you boots?
Because her mom's
with
shit.
Her mom's
a piece of shit.
Yeah. That is a reoccurring theme in these books, is that the family sucks.
Yes.
In some aspect. Mira's great. We love Mira.
Yeah. And Mira tells her also, like, when you get there, when you cross this parapet, which is the first kind of challenge to get into the school, find Dane right away, who's their old family friend. They don't really tell you that right off the bat. Just find Dane right away, and whatever you do, Xaden's going to be there. Stay away from Xaden at all costs.
Yeah.
If you don't need a master's in literature to realize that Dane is gonna suck and Xaden is gonna be the best part of the book.
Right.
She's putting it right out there at the beginning. So we find out that Xaden hates her because his parents were part of this rebellion in which Violet's mom killed all these members of this rebellion.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that he would hate her guts.
To be fair, Xaden's father killed Brennan. Her brother.
Right. In war. Yeah. So
it's really hard to keep revenge in war, you know? Like,
that's what I mean.
It just kind of is.
And then it's like, well, who was on the right side? But it doesn't matter. This is all for later discussion. And also, by the way, aside from Xaden, there's a bunch of other kids there, and our mom killed their parents, so they probably all want you dead as well.
Yeah.
And okay, so you're not ready. You're physically weak, and everyone wants you dead. What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
This is a great idea. So she goes up, and now her sister gives her the best send off she can. And you have to wait like you're waiting online for an amusement park ride to get to the top of this spiral staircase tower, and you have to cross this parapet, which is like a balance beam in the sky. And everyone, like, there's an astounding number of people statistically who are going to die before they even get to the first day of school.
My favorite part about this book, I have so many favorite parts, but like one of the best parts writing wise about this book is that there are all these percentages just thrown at us.
Right.
Like only 2/3 of the people who showed up to the Writers Quadrant today will make it past. And then from there, only a quarter will make it to the end of the first.
Mark, and this check mark, and this check mark.
It's it makes it, like, for me, I was like, this is ridiculous.
The whole thing is ridiculous.
Well, yeah, the whole thing. I mean, yes, it is a book about dragons, so yes, correct.
But the dragons are the least ridiculous part to me. The war college, whatever. So she gets to the top and she chats it up with these two people online, and you're like, oh, she made 2 friends right off the bat. It seems like friends are going to be a pretty important part of, like, making it through this entire experience.
Yeah.
So she talks to a guy and a girl, and we meet our friend Rhiannon, and she starts talking to her. She realizes Rhiannon has the wrong shoes too and didn't have a dragon riding sister to give her the right boots, and she selflessly they each change a boot. So each one has a shitty boot and a good boot, even though they don't fit, and she's selfless, and we get it. The other kid she starts talking to, super excited to be there, telling him all about their family, his family, their lives. Dylan. She had to look it up because what I was going to say is
I have the book right in front of me.
His name doesn't matter because he falls right off the fucking thing.
But it does matter because Dylan's name needs to be said.
I'm going to need you to focus up here.
Dylan needed to be said.
Yeah,
he needs to be remembered.
Yeah, may he rest.
Because he's like the first one you're like, oh, they're going to, like, they're the trio. Like, you think because of all the other books you read that they're, like, these are the 3 that are going to make it. And sure enough, within the first 25 pages, Dylan dies.
Yeah, he's splattered on the floor. And no one cares. Everyone just moves on. Like, you don't even stop to mourn these people. So she gets up to sad. Yeah, she gets up to the top. She sees Zayden right away. We know he's, like, super hot. He's going to be a problem. Hot. And she's a little distracted by his hotness, and she's trying to cross this thing. And Rhiannon goes first, right?
She says... Yeah, Rhiannon's in front of her.
So, Rhiannon goes across, she makes it. Violet starts to go against all odds. She's, like, shitting her pants going across this thing. She's wobbling all over. And someone's behind her, and this guy is just immediately... Now, this guy's immediately just trying to kill her.
This guy immediately is just fucking with everybody. And then picks on her because she's so small.
And
I think he hears that she's a soaring gale.
Probably. And he's throwing people off this balance beam 1,000,000 feet in the sky left and right, and he's actively just trying to murder her. And and we just move on. We just move on with life. So she gets to the end, and he gets to the end, and she has a knife at his balls, basically.
He's not technically a rider yet. Right. I don't know if this is trademarked. We've not said his name yet. Because all I'm going to say is Jack fucking Barlow.
Right. And
which apparently everyone else says, so it makes me feel a little...
Unoriginal?
Yeah. But you know what? It's true. Jack fucking Barlow. He is not off the parapet yet. So because he's not technically off the parapet yet, he's not a cadet yet.
Right.
So she could kill him right then and there. She lets him through.
But she embarrasses him.
She embarrasses the shit out of him.
Which probably wasn't the brightest idea, but she did it anyway, and I'll give her that. It's one of the few things she does that doesn't annoy the shit out of me. And she lands, she gets off the thing, and she finds Dane right away, and we get the backstory a little bit. They're like childhood family friends. They were raised together. They're family.
Yeah.
But with like a romantic inclination in the background. Yeah, there's a crush there.
Now, coming over the parapet, she fell.
Sure.
She like slammed her knee. So she comes off the parapet out like she's injured already.
She's injured for the rest of the books. But
she's injured for the entire book. But but in this moment, she only had one task to cross this balance beam in the sky. She fell. She already busted her knee.
Right. And Dane is right off the bat like, what the fuck are you doing here? This is the worst idea.
This is only redeeming quality.
So
for the entire book.
It's gonna become a problem, but for a while I think he's the only person that makes sense in this whole
That's
book.
what I mean. Like you brought that up and it is accurate.
He whisked her away and he was like, "Are you good?" Like she gets injured so much that she knows how to wrap all of her limbs. And this is an ongoing issue where, like you said before, it's not just she's not accident prone, she's not just weak. She has some sort of condition in which her injuries are egregious. If she falls, something is broken. Her bones are glass, her tendons are tissue paper. She falls apart all the time.
Yeah. You said you read somewhere that it was because the author's kid.
I believe, and I have to double check. Like we should double
We can
check
fact
this.
check
The
this.
author's child has some condition that is similar. That yes, which is really cool. If that's accurate, like that's a cool thing. For that kid to have this like character
be like them.
Yeah, that's like super badass.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not what makes her annoying. Her disability, in air quotes, is not what makes her annoying. It's her personality. So let me throw that right out there right now.
We are not.
I'm not shaming her physical flaws. I'm shaming her mouth.
Her personality.
Right. So he thinks he can get her out of there. He's like, you were supposed to be a scribe. What are you doing here? I'll get you out no matter what. She says no for real thin reasons.
Mom said
My
she's
mom
going
said
to
I
pull
have to...
me back.
And he said she can't do that. Like, once you're in there, once we get you in, it's going to be fine. She won't do it. It's a whole back and forth. This back and forth is going to continue on for the rest of this book. Dane gets her patched up. She won't leave. You're going to have to... you're really going to have to do a lot of work on this one. And they get separated into their little military structures.
Yes.
The structures, I don't fully understand, but there's wings. And within the wings, there are either squads or quadrants. I can't remember.
So for the purpose of this, we're going to call them a squadron because we don't know. Because we don't know what the name is.
Dane is a squadron leader. Zayden is a wing leader. Zayden is super in charge. Like, he's top.
Yeah.
And Dane, in an attempt to help his friend and her new friend, Rhiannon, puts Rhiannon and Violet into his group. Squadron.
Yes.
They are supposed to be with a different wing leader. At the last minute, the 11th hour, Zayden pulls a power move and takes Dane's entire squadron and puts them under his wing. So now they all report to Zayden.
Yes.
This is a problem.
Huge problem.
Violet starts freaking out. She's like, why would he do this? The answer is pretty obvious, but Dane spells it out for anyway. He wants to kill you.
She's supposed to be smart. So when shit like that happens, I'm like, you're really not.
I have zero evidence through the entire book that I read that she's intelligent. She's book smart in a couple.
That's what I mean. She's book smart. She's logical. Like it's all of. She has all of the traits to make her a great scribe.
Sure. She's
bookish.
She's a librarian.
She'd be on Book Talk.
Right. Dane explains to her, well, it's obvious, silly. He wants to kill you. Why else? What don't
silly
you understand,
goose.
you silly goose?
You silly goose,
He wants you dead, and I can protect you. Stay with me. I'll do my best. And also, by the way, his dragon is the baddest ass dragon in this entire place.
She's so fucking rad.
So, he's a villain who wants you dead, and he has a big scary dragon. But have no fear, because there's a code, and that code will kind of keep you safe. In a school where everyone's just allowed to fucking kill everyone and people were just thrown off of a bridge, would you feel confident in this? And air quotes, I'm calling it code. The code is shit.
The codex is lawless, pretty much. There are only two rules I think worth mentioning on this because they talk about it so much I don't even remember most of them. But the two things that the codex states are that the people in your squadron, air quotes, obviously, because we don't know what they're actually called, are not allowed to kill you. They're the only people that are not allowed to hurt you. And then the other thing worth noting is you're not allowed to be killed in your sleep. Like, if you kill someone in their sleep, then it's like an automatic you die.
Yeah, punishable by death.
Yes.
So, that's supposed to make her feel better. We find out that Dane has some, like, light magic that he can do, and also, if he touches you, he could read your memories. Keep that in mind.
Signet.
That is his signet, which is it's a dragon power. It's a power that you get once you've bonded to a dragon, and everyone's is different. So, for the next rest of this book, I don't know if I have the time to bring it up every time, but most of the conversations between Dane and Violet go, Dane telling Violet, most of the conversations between Dane and Violet are Dane telling Violet, please leave, I'll do whatever I can, I'll smuggle you out of here, you're too weak, you suck, you're gonna die, while he's touching her face. And she's like, no, I can't, I have to stay, I have to be a dragon rider, just because my mom wants me to be, even though I hate my mom, and I hate doing this. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's actually pretty spot on.
That happens 400 times through the rest of this book.
Yeah.
So, now we get into the sparring. There, you have to spar every day, and there's challenges between people. On her first day, she has to spar my favorite female character in this entire book, Imogen, which in my head, I'm going to keep calling her Imogen because in my head her name is Imogene, which is a more common name, but there's no E at the end of it, so I think it's actually Imogen. And Imogen is like a pink-haired...
I can't wait to actually fact-check you on this, because in my head it's Imogene.
Right, but it's I-M-O-G-E-N. Imogene is I-M-O-G-E-N-E.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think I'm correcting myself, but maybe I'm making it worse. That'll be funnier.
Yeah. Fair enough. I can't wait till we get to later names so we can really get into it.
So, we meet Imogen. She has to fight her. She's a bad bitch with pink hair who wants to kill Violet right away. She tries to kill her. The teachers step in like, no killing allowed. It's her first day. And she says, okay. And then she breaks her arm anyway. She pops her shoulder right out of the socket, or she break her shoulder.
She does a lot of damage.
She
so
fucks her
much
up.
damage that Violet has to go to a healer, a mender, and actually get mended.
And this is because Violet's mom killed Imogen's parents. So I say, I probably would have tried to break her arm too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I understand it's not her fault, but I see the logic here of why people.
It's not unwarranted.
Dane takes her to the healers the whole way down there, like, we gotta get you out of here, we gotta get you out of here. And they get down there, and he asks them, don't fix her.
Yeah.
So we can use that as an excuse
to get her out.
Which some people are like, super red flag. And in my head, I'm like, I would be doing anything. Like, if this was my friend, I would be doing anything in my power
It's not,
to get them
for
out
me,
of here.
it's not a red flag for me at this point. At this point, I was like, bitch, get out. Obviously, there was like 800 pages left to the book, so we know she doesn't get out.
Right.
But at this moment, I agree with you. Not a red flag. Only one making sense. Doing his best to protect his best friend.
So now she's all bandaged up, which is another problem, because not only are you not supposed to be weak, but you're super not supposed to show weakness. And she gets back, and in her stuff, she finds a book written by her dead brother Brennan, given to her sister Mira, which has now been passed on to her.
Yeah, she got it smuggled in by a scribe kid.
Yeah, it's a cheat code. It's a little cheat code of how to survive this school and make it out alive, which it didn't sound like Mira needed, quite frankly, but our girl Violet here could definitely use a little extra help.
A little help, yeah. She opens up this book from her brother, and we find out that the seemingly
random matchups of
Correct.
sparring are not random. There's a way to find out who you're gonna fight. This bitch goes into the woods. She takes to the woods to go foraging for berries, climbing trees, even though her bones
are made of glass
at best.
And her joints are made of tissue paper.
So now you're making fun of me?
No. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to assist. I'm trying to make this funnier. Not having to do the synopsis and only chime in allows me to drink a little bit faster than my sister. And you're seeing the outcome of that.
You're hearing it. This bitch climbs a tree to look for berries, even though she's the most fragile person that's ever been born.
Mm-hmm.
She's up in the tree, and who do we hear?
Fucking Shadow Daddy Zayden.
Shadow Daddy Zayden, and we're about to find out why he's a Shadow Daddy, and we hear him, and at first he's just with Imogen, and she's kind of eavesdropping from the tree. And then we realize that this is a bigger gathering in the woods. It's Zayden, Imogen, and it's all of the marked children. All of these children who have been... They're the children of adults who are part of the resistance. They are now marked with a tattoo in an just awful scarlet letter way that everyone can see. They're totally discriminated against. They're forced into this school. They have no other choice. And everyone is basically out to get them. So Zayden is in the woods, we find out. You think, for a minute you think that they're plotting something and we're going to hear some secret takeover plan, and it's actually just Zayden trying to give them advice in the woods of how to survive this school.
He's just having a little bit of a study hall for his little friends.
He's having a study hall. He's real quick and to the point. He's not really coddling them, but...
Not at all. Actually, yeah, he doesn't coddle them, but he is like, Who needs help with what? Like, who's struggling with what? And
he's trying to keep them alive. There's obviously a sense of responsibility that you'll find out more about. Someone asks during this little meeting of the minds in the woods, when do we get to kill Violet? And he is like, step back, that bitch is mine. He doesn't say bitch. He was like, she is mine to handle. And right there, you get like a little shiver down your spine because it's like, is she yours to handle? In what way? Do you mean kill? Because I don't think that you do. But let's stay tuned and find out. So the meeting breaks up, and Violet, because she thinks she's so smart, is like, everyone's gone. Let me hop out of this tree. And she's immediately assaulted by shadows.
Correct.
And we find out that Xaden is a shadow wielder, which is real important and rare. I'm going to disclose right now, I don't know what that really means. I read this whole book, and I get that his shadows come out of his fingers and do things. I know that they can kill people. Do they make shadows? Can they hide things? Do they dance on the walls? Can you make it into anything that you want? I think all of these things are true. I have a hard time. You know I can't see pictures in my brain. So a lot of times people's powers in books are just like power. I struggle to follow written descriptions of things that aren't real. So if it's something that exists, I can follow it. If it's something made up, like a shadow power, I struggle. But
I'm picturing in Peter Pan when Peter is trying to get the shadow to hook back onto his feet.
Which is why I have trouble being intimidated by it. But I understand, as a reader, we're supposed to be very impressed by the shadows. Yes. She is very impressed by the shadows. They have this conversation. He tells her, are you gonna turn us in? Because this will all die. Well, this is easily a death penalty for all of us.
There's like some rule. Like, they're not allowed to congregate. These kids aren't allowed to congregate.
More than 3 at a time.
Yeah.
And she, with her moral superiority, is like, no, you weren't doing anything wrong.
I think it's like, it's moral superiority, but I think it's also logic, right? She's like, okay,
she has a strong moral compass. The superiority part doesn't come in until later, but I'll
die
concede
on that
it.
hill.
No, I'll concede it. I'll concede it. She does the right thing. She's like, why would I tell you? You weren't doing anything wrong.
You were literally just making sure these kids survive. Like,
right.
You didn't if you did something wrong, I would have said something. But if I say something now, you all die.
Right.
You didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, that's snitching. You didn't do anything wrong. And he was like, okay, cool. Then I'm not going to kill you. And I owe you a favor. We go on our merry way. He calls her Violence. He gives her first nickname right then and there. He tells her, you look real fragile, but I could tell that you're full of violence. That's not a direct quote.
Well, because she also wields a dagger at him.
Yes.
The only thing she's
her only skill
kind of skilled at in combat is throwing daggers with accuracy.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like chuckling at her. There's some flirtatious vibes going on. You could tell automatically. She's like, why am I attracted to this guy? And it's like, well, good. He's hot and he's being a dick. Welcome to being a stray female. And off she goes. They separate their ways. She goes back to bed. We find out some background next about the available dragons. And the big ticket item, the baddest dragon that's available for all these kids to be bonded with at the end of this, is a big black dragon.
No.
What?
No. The biggest, baddest available dragon is the big black dragon. He hasn't offered to bond in X amount of years.
Right.
Since his last rider. Right.
Who's the one who tried to bring back her brother from the dead.
Right. But like when the teacher's going through all the dragons that could potentially be seen, they don't even have a picture of the big black dragon that's available because he hasn't been seen in a decade.
But it's known that he's out there riderless because Jack Barlow wants him. And he's like, oh, I'm going to get that one.
He says, how do we get it to want to bond?
He's like, that's going to be my dragon.
Okay.
And it's cocky because in your head,
yeah,
you're like,
he's just like,
that's not how this works. And
right.
B, you're a dick.
Right.
But there's a big scary black dragon out there that doesn't have a rider. And the real point of this is that that's the dragon whose rider died trying to revive her brother from the dead.
Yeah.
Which is a no-no. No, you're not supposed to bring people back to life.
You can't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the foreshadowing I was getting at. There's already a connection between her and this scary black, elusive
Right.
dragon.
No, I'm just saying, like, I was just saying that, like, even when he tried, because he showed pictures of all of the dragons, the one that he showed, he couldn't even, he was showing the different types of dragons, and the black dragon is one of the most powerful dragons. The only one available isn't bonding. He says he's not bonding.
Right.
That's all I was just saying that. Doesn't matter.
Oh, it does matter. It does matter. It all matters.
It's a story about dragons.
Yeah, well, then the dragon details are the most important part. It's time for the first round of fights, and she's not fighting Jack Barlow, but he starts fucking with her right away. And Dane's advice to her has been like what your parents tell you when your sibling's trying to fight as a little kid, like, just ignore him. Just ignore him. Stay off the radar. Just ignore him. Zayden put it in her head, like, don't take shit, throw a knife at his face. So that's what she does. It misses, she makes her point, and Dane is pissed. He's not listening to her, and Zayden is probably feeling pretty smug about it. And that's the dynamic that we're going to have for the rest of this book. From Brennan's book, she knows who she's going to spar, and she took breakfast duty so she could poison them. And this becomes her MO. She's like a little serial poisoner. She just starts poisoning anyone she's supposed to fight. She's poisoning them because she's weak and she can't fight
but
them.
she's poisoning them, but she's making sure it's a dosage that's not going to kill. It's not lethal.
She's cheating.
1,000,000,000%. And I'm not saying she's not cheating. She's cheating 100%. She's a cheater, and Eileen hates cheaters.
I do hate
because
cheaters.
Eileen, like Dane, loves rules.
I
loves order.
No, I like people of integrity. That's what I like. You're cheating in a skill that's important for the people around you, and like you're gonna go into war and think that you don't have to learn how to fight.
But
it's insulting. It's insulting to the people around you.
You're making it seem as though she's not trying to learn how to fight. She is. She's attempting to learn. She's working with her friend Rhiannon, learning how to spar.
But if she can't spar before the end of this and she just keeps poisoning people, do you think at the end she'd be like, just kidding?
But do you think that if she had no skills at sparring and only had less than a year to learn how before showing up to this Riders Quadrant, do you think she's gonna be able to she needs to continue building up her skills. So, like, in this moment, she cannot hurt anybody. She is useless, right? Would you agree with that?
More than useless.
More than useless.
I don't know what a word is to
More than
describe
useless.
how
So,
useless she
as
is.
she's working with Rhiannon to build up her skill set, she's using the poison to be able to get through. I'm not saying it's right. It's cheating. She's a cheater. But you're making it seem as though she's not trying
You're making it seem like she stops poisoning people due to her own integrity, and she does not.
She's a big old cheater pumpkin eater.
Yeah. Character
100%.
flaw. It's a character
flaw. 100%. But you also just need to acknowledge the fact that she is working on the sparring skill set. She just still sucks at it.
I can acknowledge that, but it has no bearing on the situation.
It does, because you make it seem as though she doesn't want to learn how to spar.
If this shook out in a way where she learned how to fight and stopped poisoning people, you'd have a leg to stand on. The only reason she stops poisoning people is because she gets caught. So do you think that she didn't leave. She had the opportunity to leave.
Yes.
She didn't leave.
Correct.
She stayed.
Yes.
So she has to do what everyone else has to do. And this is what I'll ask you, and I'll ask you again. If you're in the building, and the building is on fire, do you want the firefighter who cheated his way through the academy?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Is the firefighter in training, or is he a full-fledged
He's
firefighter?
But he only made it through because he cheated. It's a terrible look.
100%. I'm not
You're actively disagreeing.
No,
you keep saying I'm not disagreeing with you, but then disagreeing.
She's a cheater. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that she's a cheater. She's 100%
You're
cheating
making an
the
excuse
system.
for her cheating ways.
I'm not making an excuse for it. Cheating, bad. Yes, 100%. I'm just saying you also are just making it seem as though she's not putting in the work to try to get away from cheating.
Get your ass kicked 5 times then. Until you.
But if you get your ass kicked, you die.
No one's dying in these.
Jack fucking Barlow snapped someone's neck in the first.
He's a sociopath.
100%. But I'm just saying, you make it seem as though, like, in these sparring matches, the idea isn't to kill. The first one wasn't. The first one, you weren't allowed to kill anyone. It was just like to test to see where everyone was. It was like a skill assessment. But after that, you can kill someone.
Everything you do in the school could lead to your death.
Correct. So you're saying that she should have just been like, you know what? I suck at this. I'm gonna die.
I'm saying she should have left when she had the 50
yes,
opportunities
what
to leave.
bill-
And
again-
if you didn't leave, then you got to do what everyone else has to do.
Okay. Okay.
I'll stand by. I'm gonna die on the hill.
I know you're gonna die on the hill, which is why I'm saying we gotta go.
So eventually one of her poisonings goes awry. She poisons someone too early or with too much. Her timing's off, and the person gets too sick to fight before they can fight.
She had been timing it out where they were getting sick on the mat.
Right. And this person can't fight, and it looks for a second like she's going to have no opponent and have another fraudulent victory. But instead,
she gets her ass handed to her.
Zayden steps up, and he's like, I'm going to humble this girl real quick.
Real
Quick.
Real fucking quick.
And he does so. He beats the crap out of her, and
yes, he does beat the crap out of her.
he beats the crap out of her, but he gives her advice along the way.
Yes.
And as he's whooping her ass, he's telling her, do this, do that, and he also tells her real sensual in her ear. I don't know how you could even make this sensual, but somehow he does. I know you've been poisoning people. And she's like, the jig is up, okay. And he tells his rival, Dane, you know, your friend over here could probably benefit a lot more from some help instead of you just trying to shuffle her out of here.
Yeah.
And I guess he's right.
I just think if I've offered to break someone out, my best friend, if I've offered to break my best friend out half a dozen times, and they're being stubborn as all get out, and they're saying, no, I have to do this, I have to be here, like, whatever. For me, I would pivot and be like, okay, they're being stubborn as all hell, they're not gonna leave, what can I do to help them succeed?
Yeah, I think he thinks eventually
he's gonna break through.
Yeah, and it's not just best friends. Like, if it was me and you, or two, like, you have a male-female dynamic. You have a weird, and I don't mean this, it's not uncomfortable, but there's two dynamics of, like, an older brother almost, and also a romantic partnership, and not in a weird way.
No,
But
it's like an
both of those
underlying,
things
there's underlying romantic
they're more than just friends. I think if this was his bro,
yeah,
he probably would be handling this a totally different way.
Right.
Then we get to he's like giving her a massage, and they're having this romantic notion moment, and once again he's telling her, like,
we gotta get you out.
Even after Zayden kind of embarrassed him in front of everyone, he doesn't pivot. He does not adjust his approach to the situation.
He doesn't evolve.
He does not evolve.
Dane,
he does not
if there's
evolve.
one thing I can say is Dane, from, like, for this entire book, he does not evolve in any way.
He doesn't.
If anything, he devolves.
Yeah.
Devolves, Imogene. You know, it is what it
Imogen
is.
and Imogene are two different
Devolves.
names. Devolve sounds like, I don't know, a drag name? It's Devolve.
If there's one thing I can say about Dane, is that he does not evolve. He devolves, if anything.
But he never just volves.
He never just volves. I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you ever just be
Well.
Gabrielle Union. So I will say he's just like a one-note character.
One trick pony.
One trick pony, like, in all facets.
We get out of that awkward massage. She gets pissed. Now we're on to the obstacle course that everyone has to go through, which gives them a little rest, like a little breather from the fighting. So they have to do this obstacle course in which another disproportionate percentage of people are going to die. We think immediately she's going to really suck at it, but she actually holds her own and gets 75% of the way through. She can't complete the last 25%.
So there's a test that you have to take in order to get into this school. And the one thing she excelled at outside of like the scribe things like reading, writing, logic, whatever, is agility.
Right.
Like that was the only redeeming thing. So the first 75% of this essentially killer obstacle course is agility. You have to like run over a moving log. You have to jump from thing to thing. Like, yes.
I can't picture any of it in my head, but it's an agility course, and
I feel like that should be its own episode where we talk about your condition.
It's for
a bonus.
Patreon.
A Patreon. If you want to know what Eileen's condition is,
DM
subscribe to our Patreon.
Subscribe to our Patreon that we don't have.
But we will.
So she can't finish the last part because she's too short or whatever.
The last two obstacles.
Yeah, it's something that's out of her physical control. It actually is. And when she does it the first time, she's with another kind of pal from her squadron, and the girl's super confident about the obstacle course.
Ready to go.
She's ready to go.
She's like excited to do this.
Excited about it, and she gets squashed like a bug, and she dies. And another sad part about this school is when you die, which a lot of people do, your parents can either come pick you up or they can burn you in a pit with all your belongings.
It's an unmarked grave.
It's
and then all of your belongings. Even when someone dies with their family, if you keep something, it's taboo to keep something.
Hide it. You have to hide it. So on her way down she brings her friend's belongings down to the body burn pit, and she runs into Zayden on the way. He's coming, she's going, whatever. And they have another, like, charged up love-hate flirt situation, and he tells her, I forget the direct quote, but the right way isn't the only way. Like, he basically tells her, you gotta think outside the box.
Yeah.
It's, again, stark contrast to Dane face-touching asshole who's just telling her, go home, it's your only option. Like, your options are die or go home. So she takes that into account, and on the last day, which is the game day, right? Like these are all practice rounds. You gotta do
timed
this,
round,
or you go
that
home.
matters. Because if you get through this, there's 3 parts to your first year of being in the Riders Quadrant. It's this obstacle course, the Gauntlet. It's called the Gauntlet, and it's the obstacle course. Then, if you make it past the obstacle course, you get to presentation, which is essentially when you parade yourself around for the dragons. And then the third is threshing, when you potentially find your dragon. So we're at the Gauntlet.
Right.
We're at game day of the Gauntlet. The actual, like, event.
Right, and she hasn't made it to the top.
She hasn't gotten past the
time.
second to last thing.
And it's her turn to go, and everyone, like, her group is doing really well. Like, historically, they're doing well. They haven't lost enough people, like, that most, statistically, they're ahead of the curve. And it's her turn to go, and she does it, and she does it, and she gets to the last 2 obstacles, and she uses a rope that's there to do something, and then she uses her daggers to climb the wall. I'm envisioning at the end of American Ninja Warrior, when there's that wall that you have to run up.
Yes, the warped wall of American Ninja Warrior,
but with a death component. And I think she basically uses her daggers to like climb, scale the wall, and she does it. And so here's what I'll tell you. This cheating doesn't bother me. This was a workaround. Like, she still did the task.
Because she also got, like, points taken off. So, like, the ropes were there to help save you if you fell. But, like, if you used the ropes, you got 30 seconds added to your time or some nonsensical thing.
She has some penalties, and they're decided by Zayden.
Yeah. But there are penalties that are accrued. So it's not like she was the fastest because of this. She essentially just got by the skin of her teeth.
But she did the task at hand. Whereas when she's poisoning people, she's not doing the task at hand. And I'm just going to leave it there. That's when this cheating, I don't think maybe she technically was cheating, but she fulfilled what she was supposed to do. Like, she completed. She uses the rules, and she gets past. She gets past, and we move on to the presentation, which is where these kids have to walk in a straight line, like grammar school status, past a line of dragons through what I'm envisioning is a cave.
A cave?
Are they in a cave?
No.
In my head,
they're like a field.
By in a cave in my head, I mean real loosely, because I don't see things in my head. But in my head, they're in a cave.
Our Patreon is going much lower now that you keep talking more about it.
Dragon March, and they tell them, try to stay loose, try to stay cool. The dragons are basically going to read your energy. Now, here's where the stakes are. If the dragons don't like your vibes,
They can just kill you.
they
Dragons-
light you up.
dragons-
They will fry you.
Are lawless creatures.
They are.
They have this weird moral, ethical code that only they know. So you could literally just think wrong and they burn you. Within, like, the first 125 pages, they scorch 2 people. So, like, they are just a lawless creature, and...
Unless it's yours. Once you're bonded to one, you're good to go. But until
only
you
with
are,
your...
Right. So, the stakes here are very high, that if the dragon doesn't like you, they're just gonna crisp you
Scorch
up
ya.
on this little,
Fry you up.
death march that they're going on. And a lot of people, more people die on this walk. So there's the people left in her little crew, and 2 of them don't make it. One of them was just openly talking shit. One of them was a little indecisive, and I felt bad. Pryor, I think his name was.
Pryor was the one that died because they were, like, indecisive. They couldn't make a clear choice. They were not what a dragon wants as a rider.
The other person.
The other one was just a bitch.
Yeah, just talking a lot of shit the whole way, and
The entire time.
they're judging you on your character. So the fact that anyone's talking shit was mind-boggling to me. But they do that, and everyone freaks out. But they kind of just carry on and try to keep it light after that. And we pass a little runty golden dragon.
I was going to say, the biggest thing about this presentation, aside from the 2 people getting scorched, is that we see a feather tail.
A little
Which is
runty.
like a type of dragon that has been taught as its own breed whose characteristics are doesn't play well with others, doesn't bond because they are uncontrollable. They essentially make them seem like this breed of dragon is, like, volatile.
But they're small.
They're just little. They're just a little baby dragon.
I'm picturing
That
Big
look-
Bird.
You picture Big Bird. I picture Puff the Magic Dragon, but gold. So, like, a big belly kind of wobbles, paws, just like a smile.
Right. And they had a couple dragons, like, start sniffing Violet, and, like, if you have a dog, they're kind of, like, pawing at her, nosing her, like, looking for, like, they like her, and which is beyond my comprehension for a million reasons, but they assume afterwards, the assumption is that they like her because she has this special dragon scale armor that her sister gifted her at the beginning of it. I don't really think that that's what it is. Once we get further into the story, I think that there is a actual connection between her and dragons. But in the moment, that's what we're led to believe. After this, we finally get into the threshing, where they take these children and dump them in the middle of the woods.
The valley. It's a valley.
And there is no help allowed from outsiders. And the options here are, you're going to find your soulmate dragon.
Mm-hmm.
A dragon's not going to pick you.
Mm-mm.
Or you're going to die. Like,
Yeah.
by dragon or by someone else, because you can all kill each other in these woods as well.
Yeah. Everyone's up for fair game.
Violet,
It's a fend for yourself kind of situation.
and there's more riders than dragons. A lot of people are going to leave without a dragon, from my understanding.
Yeah, I think there's only 100 dragons or 125 cadets. There's only
It's
100
not even.
dragons. Yeah.
And this broad is just futzing around in the woods. No dragon has picked her yet. And she decides to once more climb a tree. Just, again, a weird hobby for someone that, if you sneeze, breaks a rib. But she hops up in a tree, and she finds her friend, everyone's friend, who's been trying to kill her. In the background, we haven't mentioned it that many times, but he's been after her the whole time.
Jack fucking Barlow
Jack fucking
has
Barlow.
a hard-on for Violet.
Right.
Violet's death.
And he's there with 2 of his friends, and she overhears them talking about the runty little dragon that's in the woods.
It's an abomination. It was a mistake. It's going to get riders killed. Yada, yada, yada.
And in this
crusade.
test of character, which is kind of what this is, they decide that they're going to kill this little dragon for the greater good. the idea being that because whoever rides it will be at a disadvantage
because
and
it's
will
gold
die.
and small.
And if your dragon dies, you die.
Yes.
So in their twisted logic, it wouldn't be fair for this dragon to pick a rider because it would be a death sentence for everyone involved. They're really just sociopaths, but
they're justifying it in this way.
Right.
Like Eileen said, if a rider dies, the dragon goes on. Like the law of dragon riders is a rider can't live without its dragon, but a dragon can live without its rider.
And move on to a new
And
rider.
move on. They're heartbroken, they feel some type of way about it, but they can continue on.
So Violet decides that it is her duty to go save this little dragon, even though the odds are really stacked against her, but she goes for it anyway, and she gets to the dragon before they do, and she's trying to communicate with this thing, like, hey, shoo, get out of here, and the dragon's just kind of looking at her with
I
big,
picture
dopey
the
eyes.
dragon just kind of bobbing, like a Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, kind of like movement, and just like smiling at her.
She's trying to say, do you have fire? And it appears as though the dragon can't even breathe fire. This dragon is...
It doesn't even have claws, it has paws.
They don't find that out yet, but yes, it does have paws.
But yeah, I mean, they're gonna find it out in the next 5 minutes.
Not at the rate we're going.
I don't like you putting me in a box.
And as this 3-on-1 fight to save this little runty dragon comes about, our main man, Xaden, rolls up on his big-ass scary dragon.
Named? Come on, sissy, you got this. We've
I
practiced.
don't care.
We've trained.
No, I don't care, because his dragon's name in my head is and forever will be Skagel. I know I'm putting an extra G because my sister has told me, but I can't change now because that's what it is in my head.
Scale.
Okay, well, scale is S-C-A-L-E.
No, that's scale.
No, that's, what do you step on to weigh yourself?
Scale with a C.
Scale.
Scale.
S and G don't go together.
You also... We'll circle back to this because I've got something that's gonna blow your mind. I've got this. Move onward.
Skagel. So
Scale. Xaden and Scale walk up.
they roll in, and it's a comforting presence, but he's also not allowed to do anything. So he's there trying. I think he's trying to intimidate the situation a little
And he's
bit.
also like narrating, like trying to be extra set of eyes on this.
She stabs Jack Barlow, and he flees like the pussy that he
The
is.
little bitch that he is.
Right. 'Cause he's
What
not-
a little bitch.
And it's not a death stab. I think she gets him in the shoulder. But
What
he-
a little bitch.
He retreats anyway.
Ugh.
And she,
What dragon would pick him? I don't know, but ugh.
she knocks out his one buddy, and she's left to fight the third friend.
Yes.
And in that moment, Xaden steps forward. He's about to throw it all away.
Yeah.
And get involved in
He's
this.
about to break the rules.
He's about to break the rules for her. Swoon. But
Ugh.
it doesn't matter because the big scary black dragon lands with a thud and lights up this last remaining member of this little sad gang.
Yes.
And he tells her, the black dragon
Yes.
tells Violet, end it with that last one that's unconscious.
And
Kill
she
him.
says, he's unconscious. He can't fight. That's not fair.
Right.
And what does he say? Okay, you're not going to help me with this. He says he would do it to you in a heartbeat. And she says, well, I'm better than that.
Right. Correct. And
Moral superiority. There it is.
it is.
Folks, welcome.
So, we realize kind of that since the dragon's talking to her, that they're probably a pair.
Yes.
And we find out that this is Tarn.
Mm-hmm.
And Tarn is picking Violet. Violet can't even hop up on him because she's so small. So he has to make a reasonable accommodation to let her on. And I'm going to tell you, this dragon saves this book. Because I was going to DNF this book so hard. I was about to close it and never open it again until this crabby, curmudgeon-y, grumpy, delightful dragon came into existence. His personality is the book.
He gives 0 fucks.
He gives zero fucks. He's a great character. And I'm thinking to myself, like, a dragon is my favorite character in this book after he's only been here for 5 minutes. But he's talking shit to her right away.
Right away.
Sarcasm is oozing out of his fire-breathing mouth.
Off the charts. Now, what I will say is that because I've now conditioned Eileen to say his name correctly, she would add an E. Terran is what she called him for the longest time.
Because an R and an N don't go together either.
But they do, because when you tear a piece of paper, torn, R and N. Torn. Torn.
But you still hear
Tarn.
the E sound.
No, you don't. Torn.
Yeah. Tarn.
This is where our two brains don't work, because torn.
No, I'm not saying Torin. I'm saying torn. I'm saying Terran.
Now you're saying it. You say
I'm
Terran.
I'm saying that the R and an N, there's a sound in between them.
Torn.
Okay.
Say it again.
When you play it
Say
back.
it again.
Torn.
Torn.
Terran.
Torn. Torn.
I'm not doing this anymore. We're moving on. So they get back on, and this bitch keeps falling off because she's too weak, she's too small, but they, in spite of all the odds, make it back to the field where everyone who is bonded with the dragon has landed.
Arrives.
You gotta roll up to the person taking
With
roll call. Yeah. And tell them, hey, what's your name? What's Dragon's name? So she rolls up and she says, I'm Violet and this is my dragon. And then she uses his government name. And if I can't say Terran, I can't say that. So she says this dragon's
whole name.
Yeah, chocolate, huh? And in her head, she hears she hears Big Bird's voice. She hears
The little gold dragon.
Little runty dragon, like, whoa, don't forget about me. Say my name too. And then she's like, Darna? And everyone goes apeshit. People are losing their
Batshit
fucking
crazy
minds. This bitch can't do anything. She can't wipe her own ass, and she has 2 dragons. So her mom is there, not acting like a mom at all, and everyone kind of comes together and says,
you can't have 2 dragons.
Well, you can't have 2 dragons, but also this isn't up to us. The dragons have to go to their dragon senate, which is the Empyrean, and they have to make this decision, and they'll get back to you. So Taryn is like, take a step aside, like, we got this, we'll be back.
Get yourself cleaned up.
Clean yourself up, get your injuries wrapped up for the 80th time, and off the dragons go. So we also find out in this moment that Rhiannon, Sawyer and Riddick all get dragons as well.
Yes, thank God for Sawyer, because he was he had to redo his first year.
Yeah.
And the man
I like Sawyer.
Sawyer's the best.
But Trina, who was the other member of their little crew, she dies up there. She falls off the dragon and she's dead.
She's the one that falls off, or she's the one that gets scorched?
No, I think she falls off. Because remember, Violet sees someone fall off when she's riding, and then she's like, ooh, that could have been me. And I'm like, well, it could have been you, but your dragon catches you, and Trina's didn't care that much. So Jack Barlow also has a dragon as well, which I find hard to believe because this is all supposed to be character based, but whatever.
That being said, he's ruthless, so maybe that's shitty, like being
shitty guy, shitty dragon.
Correct.
And now we get Dane doing real typical fucking Dane behavior, and this is when we lose him. This is when we really lose him, because he grabs her and he's like, pulls her to the side and is like, listen here, they're not going to let you have 2 dragons. You're going to pick the little one. And he tries to be assertive, and assertive is so hot on some people, but assertive is so cringe.
Pathetic.
It's so cringe on
Dane.
It's
so pathetic on so many other people.
He just thinks that he's going to really
tell
her life advice right now, and that they can't have, she's not going to be allowed to have these 2 dragons. And then he also drops, now this is the most important tidbit of information, that Scale and Taryn are a bonded pair. They cannot be apart. Therefore, if she chooses that dragon as one of the 2, her and Xaden are forced together forever. They are bonded until the end of time, which he thinks is going to be a deterrent, and it's just getting her panties probably in a bunch, but what do I know? So now the dragons are still out discussing this situation, and Xaden rolls up. and he pulls the ultimate dick swinging card, and he
God,
asks,
but is it so fucking well placed, well timed, and well deserved?
he asked Dane, like, flat out, like, this is your girl, like,
It's your best
let me
friend.
ask you, if you were out there and she was about to die, would you have broken the rules that you love so much to save her life? And Dane is so dumb.
Oh, God, he loves the rules so fucking much. He couldn't even lie.
He didn't even have the
He
sense to lie about it.
couldn't even lie and be like, yeah, of course I'd save her.
No.
He said no.
He says no.
He says no, I wouldn't have saved her.
He says no. He flat out says no.
God, fucking pathetic.
Right. And
God.
then,
Pathetic.
in a really, really, really horribly placed decision,
Ugh.
he chooses this moment.
Oh, after saying how much his rules mean more than her, he chooses
her.
to kiss her.
Right. And
Blech.
she gets a major ick right away.
Ugh,
which we've
rightfully so.
We
we all feel it.
We've all had the ick,
And
but
we all
she gets
feel
it
it.
right away, and now she's panicking because she's like, "What have I done?" In this exchange as well, Xaden also tells her, "You know,
Like,
our dragons are linked, and our lives are linked now.
right, like you die, I die, essentially.
You die, I die, but it's not in a romantic way."
Nuh-uh. It's
He's-
very much like you're now a burden
And
to
he
me.
says flat out, like, "This is the last person I would want to be linked to in any way, shape, or form." It's not romantic. There's no love lost.
It is like
He is pissed,
Yeah.
and he's pissed
kind
that
of
he's linked to
annoyed.
her because she's a weak person. But he's really, what the root of it is, if you want to get deep.
Mom killed his dad.
No, it's that he already has responsibility for all these other
Yes,
children.
It's just like one more,
and now it's just
one more
life
child
that
to
he
deal
has
with.
to fucking deal with.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to do it. And he says it flat out. And I'm like, I feel your pain, buddy. Like, I wouldn't want to be linked to her either. I don't even want to read the rest of this book about her.
I'm only reading it because of the big black dragon.
The dragon really just saved everything here. So the dragons come back, and it's decided that she gets to keep both. And
Yeah, they said fuck it.
they
Two
said,
chose her. She gets both.
they said fuck it, yeah. And everyone starts to suck up to Violet the next day. It's like Mean Girls.
Oh.
Suddenly, people are getting kicked out of lunch tables, and everyone is obsessed with her who's been real shit to her before. Her friends come more into play, and I really like her little group of friends. She has Rhiannon, she has Sawyer, she has Riddick.
Those
They're
three are
awesome.
solid. They're
Rhiannon's
solid.
a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Riddick is super funny. He's like the class clown.
Yeah.
And now she also has Xaden's friends.
Yeah.
And they're awesome as well. But they were just separate. They're older.
Right.
And now suddenly they want to sit with her and take an interest. She's like, what's going on? And our girl, Imogen, tells her, I'm going to beef you up here. Because the way that we could protect those
Little baby
shitty
joints of yours
are we got to get you jacked. And it's a nice sentiment. But she's also wondering, are you doing this because you like me? Are you doing this because you like my dragon? Or are you doing this out of loyalty to Xaden? And
It doesn't matter the answer.
well, it does, because in her head right away goes to, are you doing this out of loyalty to Xaden because you're boning him? And that's a valid question.
But then one of the other friends is pretty much flat out says, which I really appreciate, he says something along the lines of, what's the point of getting to know you if you're not even going to make it past threshing?
Well, the first years, that's why they don't...
He's like, what's the point of what's
Right,
the
we
point
don't
of
wanna
knowing
get
your
attached.
name because
We don't
there's
wanna
a
get
really good
attached.
chance you're not going to make
Right.
it. But Imogene specifically, you can tell it's because Xaden asks.
Right. And we have some more footage of Violet not being able to stay on the dragon. And he has to use magic to hold her on, which is bullshit because it's
Creates like a
depleting
little
his power
magical
and yada, yada, yada.
seatbelt.
Then we also have the cringiest part of the book is when Dane comes up to her and basically grabs her hands to let her down easy. And he's like,
he
listen,
thinks he's doing the Lord's work of being like, this can't happen.
this is gonna
right
happen,
now.
and she's so relieved because it was like
I
kissing her
felt
brother.
relieved.
I felt we all felt we all breathed a sigh of collective relief.
Yeah.
That he was, but
He
it was
really
just,
thought he was doing the
he
Lord's
thought
work on
he
that
was
moment.
really letting her down
Yeah.
easy. Then we meet Jacinia as well, which comes up pretty quick after this, and it's her old friend from they were scribes together. Jacinia's deaf, so she has to sign to her, and she goes down first looking for the book about that her dad read her, like a children's book. And Jacinia looks for the book and is like, that's really weird that it's not here because every book in the world is supposed to be in this library, but I don't have any children's books about this. And she's like, oh, okay, well, it was great to see you, and off she goes. We find out also in this time period that, just a background information here, if you don't get your dragon power, your signet, within about 6 months, you're probably going to explode from all the pent-up magic in your system. So we have that timeline going on in the background, and Violet's is naturally pretty slow. We see some people's signets starting to manifest. We find out that Rhiannon, I don't know exactly where in, but I'll put it in here. Rhiannon can, like, float things. She can, with her mind, like, move objects. We see someone whose signet is mind reading, and he starts to go ballistic, and they execute him because they snap his neck real quick. So we do not want a signet of mind reading because it is punishable by death. We then have some more Dane and Violet drama. They finally have a fight, which is great. Because this will they or won't they, when it should be a won't they, has been going on for entirely too long. Violet tells him, fucking kick rocks, and it's finally over, even though it's dragged on just entirely too long. Now we get to the scene where Violet is peacefully sleeping in her bed, and a voice of her little baby golden dragon wakes her up from a dream, and it's like, you should probably wake up right now. And she's being attacked. There's 7 people in her room, which is a big fucking no-no. 6 of them are unbonded riders. We don't find out in the moment who the 7th one is. The 7th person actually flees. And she gets up and she's trying to fight these 6 people. And it's pretty clear that it's 6-on-1, so she doesn't stand a chance. And as she's about to die, time stops.
Yeah. There's this moment of just like, what the fuck is going on? And everything stops except Violet.
And she thinks she's losing her mind. She also thinks that she's about to die, which she is. And as she races for the door to get out, she is met by Xaden, because in this moment, while it's Andarna, we find out who stopped time. Taryn is telling her, just hold on, I'm trying to get there. And Taryn had told Scale about what was going on.
And Scale tells Xaden.
Correct. So
yes.
Xaden comes, and in a super hot showing, he murders these 6 motherfuckers in about 1 second flat. Well, he murders 5 of them real quick with his shadows. And then...
Not the air quotes.
I think he strangles them with shadows. But if it's a shadow, how could it hold you? It doesn't matter. But he saves one for last, and he slits that one's throat.
Yeah.
That's a bloodier death. And
within 3 minutes, everyone is dead.
Everyone's dead, and Violet's like super hot and bothered by all this, which who wouldn't
trying to play it off.
Try to play it cool, and his friends Bodhi, I think it's Bodhi and Zara, and Bodhi and Garrick.
Yes.
Come in, and they have to once again clean up
the
Xaden's
mess.
Death mess.
Ugh.
And once they drag all the bodies out, it's this like funny. So he's stuck there with Violet. He's in the room with Violet, and he's like, we need to find out if you're hurt or not.
He gets her
and with a flick of his wrist, as the book says, he slams the door shut. He's like, take off your shirt, we gotta check your ribs. And it's this like supposed to be this like sexually charged moment, but it's like, was this the time?
She's actually like broken.
She's
like a broken
but
being.
She's buying it. It doesn't matter how we feel because she loves it. And
yeah.
she's like, she rips off her shirt and she's like, you're gonna have to. And he's
I
like,
imagine her in like an Ebenezer Scrooge nightgown.
Me too. 110% from like Kmart with a floral print and a bib top.
Yep.
And
a little lace.
She rips that baby off. And she's like, you're gonna have to. And he's like, bitch, I've seen a million corsets. Like, I've got this. And you're just supposed to be like swooning. And you kind of are, but it's funny at the same time. Like, what's happening here? She almost just died. But she doesn't, she's full blown in for it. She's like, I'm good to go. And once
Sign me up. Put me in, coach.
Yes, put me in, coach, exactly. But her ribs are fine. And he's like, okay, great work. Put some clothes on. We gotta go talk to the dragons because what the fuck
just happened.
And they meet, and now they're out with all 3 of the dragons. And this is where we find out that Stopping Time has wiped out Andarna. She's out for the count because she's actually, Feathertails aren't their own breed of dragons. They're baby dragons.
Just a baby dragon. She's just a little baby.
But no one can know that because it's top secret information. And when you're a baby, you have different powers. You don't have your adult powers. And you can gift them kind of the way that she just did. Yeah. But it'll wipe you out. And it's just all this secrecy. And everyone's just standing there like, wait, what? We also now, okay, so now the next day we're in like the assembly like we always are.
She told Zayden that there was a seventh person.
She did. So now we're at the assembly and it comes to fruition because Zayden steps up, or it comes to light, not fruition. It comes up. He stands up on the stage and he's like, listen, I executed 6 people, just real casual.
Super cash.
I killed 6 people last night that tried to kill Violet. And everyone's like, oh my god, that's awful.
Because it happened while she was asleep, which is a big no-no.
And he says there was a 7th person there. And people are like, oh my god, who could it be?
Who?
And he calls out the wing leader, Amber, which is the bitch that tried to keep her from completing the obstacle course or moving on from that. And in another show of real daniness behavior.
Oh, daniness. That's great. Daniness.
Daniness.
I
yeah.
love that.
So he is pissed because that is his friend. Amber's his very good friend.
Yeah.
And he immediately accuses Violet of
lying.
Right.
Well, no, he was like, tell them it's not true.
Right.
He doesn't
Which
say
is
you're
the same
lying.
as lying.
Well, yeah, it leads to believe like she can save Amber versus she's the one that sold it. That she's the one that told them that Amber.
And then this motherfucker tries to put his hands on her to see her memories of this attack, and she is super violated, like, get the fuck off me. And in a quick, smart thought, I don't know if it's her or Zayden, they decide instead they're going to have the dragon, they're going to have Taryn show the other dragons the memory, and then that can be passed on to the riders.
Right.
So they don't need
the biggest security risk right now for Violet's mind is Feathertails being baby dragons.
Right.
Like, that Andarna is in fact a baby dragon.
She doesn't want Dane to see that, so she works it around so everyone can see it, but they see it through the dragon's point of view, not
Which
hers.
will then keep the Feathertail thing on the DL.
And it is indeed Amber, and unfortunately, that means she's got to get fried alive in front of everyone, and her dragon tries to really step in. And Taryn's like, this is awkward, but I'm about to light that bitch up. And he does, and she's dead, and everyone's a little jarred by it. Right. I don't think Dane offers the apology in that moment that he really should.
God, no. Dane actually said, why didn't you just show me?
Right.
And she was like, what?
Right.
He's like, you could have just showed me. And it's like, what? No.
Right.
You don't fucking deserve anything.
And after this attack, is when we finally get to meet in full. We finally get to meet Liam.
Swoon.
We swoon Liam. We swoon Liam because he's the best. He's the best in every way.
He's the perfect man.
Everyone simultaneously falls in love with him.
The perfect man.
He has a little crush on Jacinia. He wants to speak to her in sign language.
Yeah, he wants to sign.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
He's really
adorable.
great at witty banter, but also super caring and takes care of Violet.
He's humble.
I wouldn't call him humble, but super he is, when you has an allegiance to Zayden, right, respects Zayden utmost, and just
they were foster brothers.
An all around good man.
Yeah, he's top tier.
Honestly, in my head, he's the best book boyfriend.
Yeah, he's top tier.
Top tier.
And Zayden assigns it because he's a first year as well, but he's top of his class. He's the best fighter. He's a bad motherfucker.
You actually hear about him throughout the book, randomly being oh, Liam from that first quadrant, or
right.
whatever. You do hear his name a couple times before this, but this is really where you get to see him in all of his glory.
So Zayden assigns him to Violet bodyguard duty. We learn a couple other things here, but it's sad because it takes Violet really loving him as a friend to have any recognition for how fucked up these marked quote unquote kids are treated, and it kind of opens her eyes to it that they're good people, or they could be good people. And we also find out here that while Violet thought the marked kids were forced to go to the school, not only are they forced to go to the school, but these children are forced into the dragon riding quadrant.
Yes.
So they don't have a choice. They can't be a they can't be a scribe. They can't be a infantry person. They are forced into this sector, which is the most dangerous one, because the military essentially felt that the dragons would weed them out due to their, ill characters based on their family's allegiances, and that the dragons would kill them, so the government did not have to kill them.
Yes.
That's a pretty important part. And Liam just loves Xaden a lot, and we find out, maybe we know it before, but just to confirm, there's 107 of these marked kids that are orphaned by this war. They get on scribe duty. After that, she loses her kitchen duties, because now they're, once you have dragons, you're off the shit chores.
Yeah,
and
give them to the
unbonded, right? So
set.
she's on scribe duty, and in these duties, I think it's where it is, they find her and Liam find a scroll, which is like a note, like a memo.
Yeah, they're picking it up for the battle brief
right.
instructor.
And they read it, because it's not
it like falls open.
Yeah, it's not marked as confidential, and they see it, and it's about an attack somewhere. And then when they get to the actual battle brief, nobody brings up that attack.
They're like, oh, we'll hear more. When they read the scroll, they're like, oh, well, we'll get the full brief in class.
No one, that doesn't happen, and Violet gaslights herself into thinking, like, oh, maybe it was more confidential, blah, blah, blah. It's a red flag right there. We roll up to Violet and Xaden. Violet wakes up, and she's, like, fucking teenager horny. She doesn't know what's going on.
Truly.
She has to rush outside, because she just needs the cold air to
Liam's
cool
there
off her
and is
bones.
like, what's wrong? She goes, get away from me.
I'm about to jump your bones, Liam. Get out of my way.
Go away.
And he's smart. He does, and he lets her go, even though he's afraid of Xaden and letting her
Supposed
out of his
to be
sight.
a shadow, but in that moment he was like,
I'm gonna
let you live.
I'm
gonna let you live, my dude.
And she runs outside to, I don't know, maybe run off her horniness. And there is Xaden. There is, maybe it does. Maybe that's why certain people are so fit. And she runs outside, and Xaden is out there smoking weed to basically take the edge off his dragon horniness. And he's like, listen, you gotta shield them out, because if not, you're gonna be a savage animal every time you
gotta
they get it on.
Yeah, you gotta figure your shit out.
And you gotta, didn't anyone teach you how to shield? And she's like, motherfucker, I've been here for 4 months. We didn't get to shielding class.
She's like, happy I have a dragon. I'm happy I have 2 dragons and haven't died yet.
Right. He's like, I cannot believe how much is left of this. He's like, let me give you the real quick cliff notes on how to shield. And she's actually good at it, because she's not good at a lot, so that's surprising. And
take your hand off of your face. Like
yeah. So
you sound defeated.
I am. Well, because I just saw how much is left. And
this is far funnier than the first attempt, though, I will say.
And they have a little makeout sesh, and he finally is like, whoa, hold on, this isn't the real you. You don't want this. This is our dragon horniness. But
right.
The dragon horniness was over, because it was all shielded out, but he essentially begs her to please walk away before he makes a bad decision.
Right.
At some point, he uses a phrase, I have to remember it, that it would be cataclysmic if they kept making out. Is it here, or is it when they fuck? And I'm just like, anyone ever told me it would be cataclysmic to touch me, I would unalive myself before the sentence was out of their mouth. Imagine someone telling you it would be a cataclysmic mistake.
Cataclysmic mistake. Yeah, you're right.
Cataclysmic is an underused word, though. It's a great word. A shout out to the author of this book, because it's an underused great word.
Oh.
I don't know if it's here or not, but he's like, this would be a cataclysmic mistake, and I'm like, oh my, my shame would stop my heart.
Cataclysmic. That might be a really good merch.
Cataclysmic. Word. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just a sweatshirt that says cataclysmic on it.
Right. Oh, a good font.
God. Font.
Yeah, she dips out, and they're all panting and walk away from each other. And Violet still has no signet. Dane is still annoying. He tries to apologize to her, and it's a shitty apology. And also, it happens while he's once again rubbing on her face with his grimy ass hands.
Grimy ass hands.
So it finally comes down to a sparring match between Violet and Jack
fucking Barlow.
Right. And she's like, Liam, I know that you're supposed to protect me for your best friend, but I need you to back up off me. And he agrees to do that.
Yes.
He does.
He does not understand what is about to happen, but he does say so.
They start to fight, and it's a pretty, well-matched fight. At one point, though, and this is it's a stupid point, but I guess it is kind of important. Jack tries to like imbue her with his power.
He says, his sadistic grin and red rim around his eyes are all I can see as he forces more and more power into my body. But his hands are occupied and he's too obsessed with his victory to hear that I've stopped screaming, to see that I'm moving.
And what is she about to do? You don't have to read it quote for
I shove the vial against Jack's smile so hard I feel one of his teeth break. She poisons him with orange juice.
Right. She goes back to her roots.
I mean, obviously they were right.
She goes back to her roots.
Oh, fuck, I lost the page that this came from.
And she orange juice poisons him.
Sad.
He's allergic to oranges.
Bless him.
But it doesn't kill him. It just sends him to the healers.
I mean, it could have killed him if it was more, but yeah, she pretty much is like...
But she's hurt too. So she wakes up in the healers, and who's waiting there for her but Zayden, who is looking real worse for wear because the weight of the world is on this poor man's shoulders.
Poor man.
He decides he's going to train her. He's going to take over her training, even though he was real cold about the kiss, said never think about it again. And the first day of their training, he shows up and he has a bunch of like custom-made daggers that are for her because they're smaller and they're lighter. And he's like, yo, you want these? And she's like, yeah, I do. He's like, well, take them from me. And they have this real sensual, sexually charged fight. And she has to disarm him, but she gets all of her daggers. And it's I wonder, I forget who's watching, but yeah, it's a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe. And after that, there's a very random encounter. This comes out of left field where Violet runs into her mom and Dane's dad like in the hallway at school, and they tell her they want to study Andarna because no one really knows a lot about feather-tailed dragons. And the mom, real casual, is like, do you know where your dad's notes about those feather-tailed dragons are? And she's like, oh no, but in her head she does. This is going to come back into play later, but it's just a very it comes out of nowhere. So now we're at the first war games that we have, which is like the next phase of this school project. And the war games are each little squadron has to find what they think something in the school grounds that would be the most valuable to their enemy. So everyone's running around school and Violet has this grand idea like, hey, let's break into my mom's office. So her crew totally backs her up, and that's what they do. And there's some drama along the way. They have to knock out a couple guards, and everyone has to use their own powers, but they come together as this group and they get into her mom's office. And there's a couple things of note in there. They see a dagger, and she's like, wow, that looks just like the fancy ones Zayden gave me, but she doesn't really think much of it. People are fishing around, and they see on the wall behind her mom's desk is a current war map of like the entire land. So they steal it, and they somehow get out, and they obviously, I mean, that's a pretty badass find. They win the war game. And the prize for this win is that they get to go to like an active military base. Her little crew. So off they go, and it's cool because it happens to be her sister's military base, and they're reunited. It's also right by where Rhiannon's family lives. So Rhiannon's like, do you think we could kind of sneak out of here and go see cause she has a new niece or nephew, I forget, that has just been born. And Violet's like, yeah, no problem. So she's having a nice little reunion with her sister, and as she asks, like, how long do you think mine and Zayden's dragons can be apart? Whose head pops out but Zayden? He's like, the answer is not
3
long
days.
enough. Yeah, 5 minutes, and here I am. And they do sneak out, and they have a nice little reunion for themselves. Rhiannon gets to see her family. Mira kind of at first is like, don't do it, and she helps them. Then they come back I think the next day, and they're having this like own battle briefing. Like Mira's supposed to give them a lesson, and Dane starts being real dickish because he doesn't want Zayden to be there. And Mira, remember, who's also known Dane since they were children, she dresses him down in the best of best ways. She castrates him.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty badass.
she castrates him. And in this encounter also, this is when we learn that Zayden can talk to Violet through their minds. They have this connection, and they can talk through each other's brains. And just as Mira is about to turn around and give Xaden his own dressing down, everything stops because they are under attack. There's a griffin attack, and they have to dip out of there. So Violet doesn't want to go. She wants to stay and fight with her sister. Xaden obviously knows they have to get out of there, and in a baller move, he kisses her to like distract her and throw her on the dragon, which she's
not thrilled about.
But also she is. Exactly. And they get back to school, and she is right at the next morning, I guess what it is she's waiting outside the offices to try to find out what the damage was from this attack that they had to flee from. And Xaden shows up, and he brings her coffee, which is just like the swooniest of of all the disgusting, deplorable, despicable, delightful things he does to her. Like, that is the
top
best
tier
move. It's the top tier move because like, you're worried your sister's dead. Like, what do I want? Caffeine. So he brings her a coffee, and they're waiting outside, and they find and Dane shows up, and he's real Daney and just real fucking annoying. And
the Daniest.
Right. They find out that her sister's okay. I think everyone's okay. It was a pretty benign attack, and Xaden also admits at some point during this encounter that, like, I want you, but, like, we can't do it. And now they have to prepare for, like, the second phase of, I think it's the War Games. And we see Xaden's second gift of love language, and he's super smart. I don't know why no one thought of this before, but he has a little saddle made for Violet so she could stay on her dragon, because this bitch can't hold on, and she's a liability because all she does is fall off this fucking dragon. And
Karen is spending way too much energy keeping her on.
Correct.
Than, like, is needed.
So he has this saddle made for her because he's in love with her. He does love her, yeah. And now the War Games start, and Violet's pretty good because she's all strapped in.
The second game is, like, essentially a big old version of Capture the Flag.
Yes. It's I envision the what's the Harry Potter game?
But, like, which one? Oh, Quidditch? Are you talking about Quidditch?
Uh-huh.
No, this is, like, where, like, there's, like, an egg and a flag, and the egg is more, but the flag is easier to find.
They're all flying around the air trying to get this egg. Yeah.
I understand that.
And Jack Barlow is guarding her egg, and she's just pissed right off the fucking bat. And in this battle, basically, Jack attacks Liam on his dragon, and our man Liam, the best character in this book, is about to die. And Violet uses once again Andarna's time-stopping secret power to save him. And she does. She saves Liam, pops him on Taryn, and in that moment, as soon as time is regained, she finds her signet finally, and she lashes out and wields lightning, and she hits a mountain, and essentially the mountain crumbles on Jack Barlow, and he has passed away.
Correct.
And she comes, and they win the game, and Liam is alive, his dragon is alive. It's false hope for all of us, but everyone is alive. And she comes down, and she's freaking out because her power is not normal. It's a big deal. And she's having kind of a panic attack about it because lightning can come out of her fingers, which is a valid response. And Dane is like, don't worry, it's all going to be okay. And Xaden is like, what? Like, bitch, like, this is war. You have a good power. Like, man up, get your head out of your ass. Don't feel sorry for yourself. And there it is again. It's the same dynamic we've dealt with this entire book. So, after that, her and Xaden go back, and this is when they finally, all of this tension that's been building this whole book, they finally fuck. And it's like a real good fucking, and the lightning's,
everywhere,
popping out of her. She doesn't even know how to control it.
Popping out of her.
Yeah, she's lighting up her own bedroom.
Breaks like an armoire.
Furniture is singed. Like, it's crazy shit. It's absolutely crazy shit. And after that, they have some pillow talk. She finds out that he's got like 107 scars on his back, and they're all for one is for each orphan of this rebellion. And he tells her essentially, like, this was fun, but I don't like you that much. We're just gonna fuck, and don't, under any circumstances, please don't get attached to me. And she's like, wait, what? And then he leaves. And I don't know if anything else happens, but he comes back either later that night or the next day because he feels bad that he left her room in shambles and all the furniture is singed and shit is everywhere. And he helps her clean up, which I guess is a gentlemanly act. Sure. And when they're doing that, she finds like the children's book from her father that she was looking for in the library with Jacinia. And there's also an ominous note in that book, handwritten from her dad, essentially saying trust no one. And while this is all going on and they're cleaning up the wreckage, Zayden's like, are you ready for round 2? And she was like, wait a minute, no, because you don't like me that much. And he's like, is that gonna be a deal breaker for you?
And she says yes.
And she does. Yep. She says yes. She knows that it's bullshit, but she shows him, and she holds out for the next month, which I'm not gonna lie to you, a month is pretty impressive under the circumstances.
Correct.
But
you could literally die in any moment. It's pretty impressive.
She starts playing chicken with him, and she starts she
breaks into his mind for a minute.
She starts taunting him. She's talking about giving him a blowjob in the cafeteria, and when it doesn't work, she starts to panic, and she's like, wait a minute, my fucking basic bitch games haven't worked here. He must be fucking Imogen. Well, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, well,
duh. That's what it is. Her insecurities take over, and it's just a funny moment, because it's like, you're a real fucking dope. And now we get up to the reunification party, which is reunification day, which is the day all the marked children's parents passed away, but we celebrate it as a national holiday. And they have like a ball, like essentially a ball at the school. And Liam, bless him, escorts up real nice, and he's real hot. And she's like, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's basically a party, like, celebrating your parents' death. And he was like, I'm in charge of you. I'm tough. No problem. And he goes, and she runs into her mom. And it's all very awkward. And basically everyone wants to know, where is Zayden? And she kind of covers for him. She gets herself out of there. She tells Liam, like, you've done enough. Let's get the F out of Dodge. Let's get the F out of Dodge. And she realizes in that moment, I don't know, she's supposed to be so smart, but it takes her till that exact moment, like, oh, Zayden's probably in a bad way today because this is his parents' death national fucking holiday.
Yeah.
And off she goes to find him. And where is Zayden? He's dangling off the parapet, just feeling sorry for himself. I envision like a bottle of wine with him, although I don't think they say that he has one.
I envision like his hair in his face and like the early 2000s anthem, cut my life into pieces.
Yes, he's having an emo moment.
Rightfully so.
And now she's got to get back on this parapet, but she's wearing basically a fucking windsail ball gown, and she's trying to make her way to him, and I think she realizes in this moment, like, I love him. And it's like, yeah, no shit, we've all figured that out 470 million pages ago. So she gets out to him, he's like, what are you doing? And then she consoles him, and they have this moment, and they have this emotional breakthrough, and then he ushers her off of the parapet, and they fuck again.
Do they actually fuck, or do they just start and then
fuck again? And then right post fucking, her door starts being banged down, and it's one of his friends, one of his besties, and they're like, you better get dressed, we're under attack.
Yeah. And
you're like, holy shit, and everyone throws their clothes on. And we get into the, courtyard where everyone's gathered because they think that they're about to die. And we find out that they're not actually about to die, but that this is the last phase of the war games, which is this simulated attack. Mm-hmm. And all of the little groups are supposed to go their own way. And Zayden at the last minute tells everyone, Violet is with me now. She's not with Dane. She's not going with him. Which understandably pisses Dane off, but what we don't realize is why he's really, really pissed off, which we're about to find out in a few minutes. And she clearly chooses to go with Zayden, and off they go. and they're on their own, and they're supposed to go to this outpost, and
It's like right outside the wards.
it's outside the wards, which is odd because they're students, but whatever. But what's cool is they get to be in full-on couple mode because it's just Xaden and his best friends, his marked best friends, and Violet. It's a very small, very intimate, very trusted group. So she's happy as shit because they don't have to hide from anyone, and they can make out and be all obnoxious and vomit-worthy and whatever. And as they stop, because it's like a 2-day journey, so they kind of stop for a rest period, and they're, having this, like, cuddly moment. And a bunch of Griffin Riders roll up. And for a second, we're supposed to believe that they're being attacked, but it comes out very, very quickly that they're not being attacked, and that Xaden and his friends and all of these children in the rebellion are working with these Griffin Riders. And she feels super, super, super duper betrayed.
Classic. The one I love has betrayed me.
Everything I know is a lie.
Everything I know is a lie. I trusted you. Yada, yada, yada.
And she finds out that these kids are all, like, separatists from the government, which, like, good for them because their government is trash. And Xaden tries to explain to her, and this female Griffin Rider tries to explain to her. And did we even say what Griffins are? So Griffins are like it's like a bird dragon, basically. They're like big ass birds that they ride, and these are the creatures that have supposedly been attacking them for forever.
This is the enemy, quote unquote, the enemy. Like, as far as the battle brief has told, this is the enemy.
Right.
Griffins are
this is the enemy army. And they find out, and Xaden's like, just chill out, listen to what I'm saying. He actually hands her off to Liam to, like, kind of throws her away, which is a little trashy.
Yeah.
But we find out from these Griffin Riders that the Griffins aren't the actual enemy, and that the Venin and the Wyvern from the book of her children's folklore that her found from her dad, that those are the actual enemies, and they're not folklore, that they are real things they're the real reason for all of these attacks.
They also showed up to the outpost that they were supposed to go to for their war game.
This was their destination.
To find a note that said,
you're fucked from Love Dane's dad.
Essentially,
so this was all a setup.
Essentially, leave now and prove that you are loyal.
It was a setup from Dane's dad. Like, he knew that they had a little extra heads up from the Griffin Riders, but they were gonna land there anyway. Yeah. And it was like, hey, are you with us, with the school, with the government, or are you with this rebellion movement?
Yeah. So, like, in that moment, it kind of clicks for Xaden and Violet that, like, oh fuck,
they've been betrayed by
Dane.
And his handsy fucking
and
behavior.
He was and Violet was like, no, Dane would never do that. And Xaden was like, yeah, but, like, when was the last time he touched your face?
All the time.
And then she, like, replays all the times that he touched her face.
Because Xaden had told Violet about this place.
He had
about
told
the outpost.
In one of his times of, like, going away and coming back, he said, I was at this outpost.
Yep.
But that was, like, all he said.
Correct.
So then she had that memory. So essentially the idea is that Dane touched her.
Yep.
And saw that he was at this outpost with 2 of his friends.
Yep.
And
knew.
Clearly something went wrong. Like, something was wrong.
Yeah, he violated the shit out of her memory.
Correct. He essentially violated her, and
it's the nail in the coffin of him being a dick.
It is his the last shred of, like, I'm on Dane's team. It's no just left. Completely obliterated in this one note from his father.
Yep. So she has to make up her mind very quick in this moment. Do I trust these people who I haven't really known for very long and go with them? Because the Griffin Riders tell them there's an attack happening right now, a Venin attack happening very close by. Like, are you going to help us or no? And Xaden tries to rally the troops, and Violet has to reconcile all of this very quickly. And she makes the right choice. They go. She's like, yes, I'll fight with you. And all the people on this trip decide that they're going to back up these Griffin Riders and they are going to go fight. We also find out that it seems like their government, Violet's mom, and that entire government has known about these creatures this entire time and have been keeping it a secret from the entire population of their, let's call it a country, because I'm not entirely sure.
The government is seeing that these civilizations outside of the wards are being attacked, but because they are outside the wards, they are unprotected, and the government that Violet knows is not willing to protect the people outside the wards.
Correct.
If it is outside the wards, it is therefore not their problem.
Right.
Which morally is a problem, and Violet sees that and decides that that is a problem she's willing to fight for.
So they hop on their dragons and off they go. We find out that the only thing that can kill these venons are daggers or weapons made of the same material that is in the wards that protect the school and their country at home, and that Xaden and his friends have been smuggling these weapons to the Griffin Riders just to give them a fighting chance at living and surviving. Mm-hmm. She realizes her mom has known all along what's going on, and we realize too that this is what the rebels, like the dead parents, were also trying to protect. This is why the books have been banned. This is why the literature is missing. The history's fucked up. So she decides, let's go. All of them decide we're with these people, even though they're probably going to their death. But they do it anyway because they're badasses, and they ride with the Griffins to go save this town from, there's 4 venon. And venon have wyverns, which are like 2-legged dragons. Dragons have 4
that
legs.
That are created, not hatched.
Wyvern have 2. They are created, and they have, I think they have blue fire. They don't have regular fire. They stay and they fight, and the fight is a disaster, and I'm not great at fight scenes, but
it is chaotic. I will say the fight scene chaotic. Is very chaotic, and even someone who sees things in their head, like pictures in their heads, it is chaotic from the get.
And they lose 2 dragons and 2 riders, and they lose Soleil.
Mm-hmm.
And her dragon. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, they lose Liam. Because Liam's dragon is killed. And it's absolutely tragic because he's one of the only good characters in this entire book.
Truly, one of the only characters that doesn't have like an asterisk next to their name.
Right. And
there's only like a handful of them that don't have an asterisk.
It's even sadder because he's not even killed because he's injured. He's killed because his dragon dies, and so he is just a fully mentally, physically functioning person whose life is draining out of him because this dragon is murdered, and he dies in the arms of Xaden and Violet, and it's an absolutely traumatic.
It's sad.
It's traumatic. It's a traumatic death. It's really sad.
It's sad.
And in the end, he tells them, "It's been an honor being it's been my honor." That's the line, I believe. And he also makes Violet promise that no matter what, she will watch after his little sister, who's coming in as a first year to this absolutely sham of a school.
She doesn't have a choice because she's a marked one.
Right. And they don't really have much of a choice. They have to hop back into this battle because it's not over. And they realize that when they kill a venon, all the wyvern that venon had created die as well. So that's pretty good information to have. And Violet starts to fight the leader. There's like a leader venon there. And while she doesn't die, she does get
mentor.
Yeah, she does get stabbed with a poison dagger. So she has this wound and she keeps going. And Andarna uses the rest of her power, like anything she has left, to stop time one more time to make Violet not die when she's falling out of the sky. And they take out the leader and they win this battle, but Violet is real fucked up. She's real fucked up. We have 2 dead people. Violet is going in and out of consciousness. We don't really know what's going to happen to her. And the last chapter, finally, we get out of Violet's goddamn head and we get a Xaden POV, which I think this book should have switched off the whole time, but I didn't write it. And we realize that they didn't have time to get her all the way back to school. So there was some talk of, well, where are we going to take her? What are we going to do? And she wakes up and realizes that she's been kind of unconscious for days, and they're in Zayden's house, like his hometown, and it's
that was theoretically burned down.
It had
this area, this like city had theoretically been burned down.
Right, and they were able to rebuild it. And you get more into this in the second book, but they were able to rebuild it under a secret because of the. No one knows that they're there because 3 of them are together, of these marked people at the same time. And the military general has no foresight for when there's 3 or more together. So she wakes up, and these two finally, after a book of bullshit, confess their feelings for each other. And it's supposed to be this nice moment until, spoiler alert, the door opens and we're surprised by her dead brother, who's not really dead. So Brennan walks in, and that's the big spoiler at the end of this book, is that he is not indeed dead. He's quite alive, and he's been working with Zayden this entire time.
And Brennan is the reason why Violet isn't dead.
Yes, because he's a super good healer. Like,
yes.
he's a very talented mender.
Yeah.
Like, he's a rare, powerful healer, and that's why they run her back to this house so Brennan can save her. And Andorna's real big. We find that out at the end. She's kind of having a growth spurt. And they find this, like, weird mystery box that they got to, that the Venom were actually looking for in this place. And that is how the book ends.
That the book ends with Brennan saying to Violet, "Welcome to the revolution."
Right. And that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
And that's a wrap for Fourth Wing.
It's a wrap for Fourth Wing. Oh, my God.
You did
I
great.
think we were ever going to finish it.
You did great.
I thought so, but that was
great.
really tough.
That was hard, but
that was a really long one. The next one is longer, so I don't know what we're gonna do there.
We can split it into 2 if we have to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to break that up because this was, oh my god, it's arduous and exhausting.
Yeah. Okay. So that was Eileen's synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's character ratings.
Go ahead.
Violet
2.
Okay.
Out of 10, right?
Out of 10?
Mm-hmm.
2 out of 10. Okay. I'm going to give her a little bit more, like a 5, but like not by much. Rhiannon.
Oh, Rhiannon's an 8 out of 10. She's a great character.
Rhiannon's a great friend.
She
really
is.
is.
Violet doesn't deserve her as a friend.
No,
and you'll see that more in book 2, but Violet does not.
Violet does not utilize her as a friend as much. Riddick, I would say, is about the same. The comedic relief, the one that kind of breaks the tensions. Zayden, Shadow Daddy Zayden.
I mean, he's 10 out of 10. He's the book
10.
boyfriend. All other book boyfriends.
Honestly, yes, he's pretty great.
Yeah. He's young. Which is a points loss because in most other books they're like 500 years old, and you're like, oh. So like as my old ass here, I'm like, well, you're a little young, so
you're a kid, but like but you are doing your best.
Sure.
What other Liam?
10. I mean, Liam is
like,
a 12 out of 10.
Like a 15 out of 10.
Right,
Truly, like the best of the best.
Now, listen, he could have had flaws that we didn't get to because he
correct.
was only here
but
for
in
5
the moment
minutes.
of the
but
time
when
that
someone
we saw
dies
him,
young, you always remember them more fondly.
Correct. Any other characters?
I mean, there's a million other characters.
Yes, but like Mom,
Dane.
fucking General.
Obviously, Dane. What are you gonna
Dane
get? Dane
is a fucking. I would say in this book specifically, Dane is like a 4.
Holy shit, we fucked up.
Why?
Let's leave some space and go back and edit it.
So I said Dane is a 4.
I guess I'll make him a 4 too, because his decision at the end really took down his rating. I could have overlooked a lot of other stuff as just like a well-intentioned idiot.
Correct.
But
a one note character could have stayed a 5 or a 6.
Yeah.
But the deception at the end really drops
3.
him out.
It's actually a 3.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Imogen?
We know that his intentions probably were not... Because he didn't want Violet to go. He had no intention of Violet to go to that massacre. Yes, like he thought... In his head, the only thing that saves him is... In his head, he's still doing right.
Right. He's still... At the end of the day, I think Dane in his head, Zayden is the enemy.
Correct.
And Violet in this moment is just a casualty.
Right. Right, and he's trying to protect her. He loves her, and he's trying to loves and air quotes on love. But yes, his intentions are pure to him.
Correct.
Imogen is a 10.
Imogen is 100%
She's the best
a
bitch
10.
in this whole book.
Scale.
She should get her own spin-off series.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scales. I mean,
Scale doesn't really say much.
she's a pretty she's a powerful bitch, but
yeah, she's a bad bitch, but
Yeah.
like we don't really get much from her. Taryn.
Taryn's a 10. He saved the whole book.
Taryn's a 10 out of 10. It's the only reason why Eileen finished this book.
Yep.
And Andarna. I mean, Andarna's like, for me, the comedic relief of the dragon world. She's the equivalent to Riddick. She's the one that's like. She like tells Taryn about himself, but also hides behind the fact that she's a baby. So I will say Andarna's pretty up there. Jack fucking Barlow is like a negative out of 10.
But he's dead.
So there's that. Yeah, I feel like that's really it.
Mira's a great character.
Mira's a great
but you don't get too much of a you don't get too much of a sense of it from here, but based on what you saw, you give her like an 8, 9.
Yeah,
Her mom is a 1. This book is full of shitty people.
This book really is full of shitty people, and she's just trying to navigate around them, and I think she ends up finding Violet ends up really finding a good group.
She does. The ensemble cast of this series is what makes it tolerable. Yeah. It's Zayden's ensemble and Violet's ensemble. They're friends. And I think that's the same in a lot of books. Like, that's what saves ACOTAR, right? It's like the ensemble cast. It's not the main. So, it's the same here, but yeah.
But yeah. So, that's our synopsis of Fourth Wing. Tune back in for our next week is Iron Flame. So we're going to figure out that timing.
Let's see how it flushes out.
But yeah, so that's that. And peace out, homies.
Peace out, homies.
And we'll see you next time.